It has been raining for 11 days. Not drizzling, not showering, raining. The kind of rain that doesn't stop. The kind that turns paths into rivers and rivers into walls of water. The kind that soaks through everything. Your clothes, your shelter, your food, your bones. And you have no roof. No waterproof jacket, no rubber boots, no warm house to go back to, no electric heater waiting in the corner. Just you, a small group of people you trust with your life, a fire that keeps going out, and 11 days of rain with no end in sight. This is not a survival show. There are no cameras. There is no helicopter coming to rescue you if things go wrong. This is just Tuesday, 30,000 years ago. And here is the part that should stop you completely. Every single person alive on Earth today is a direct descendant of someone who survived this. Not once. Over and over again. Season after season, generation after generation, for hundreds of thousands of years. How did they do it? Let's start with the thing that killed more ancient humans than almost anything else. Not predators, not starvation. Getting wet. This sounds almost funny until you understand what it actually means. When your body gets cold and stays wet, your core temperature begins to drop. It drops slowly at first. You shiver, your hands go numb, your thinking gets foggy. Then it drops faster. Then it drops until your heart stops. Hypothermia, the invisible killer. A wet night in the wrong conditions, with no shelter and no fire, could kill a healthy adult in hours. Not days, hours. So the first survival problem wasn't food. It wasn't predators. It was staying dry enough to stay alive. And 30,000 years ago, with rain hammering down for days at a time, that was not a small problem. The first thing ancient humans figured out was something so obvious we completely take it for granted. Get under something. Caves, overhanging rock faces, dense tree canopies, anything that puts solid material between their bodies and the sky. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans used cave entrances, not deep inside caves, which were dark and dangerous, but right at the mouth, where they could have light, airflow, and still be sheltered from rain. But here is the problem with caves. There were not enough of them. The landscape of prehistoric Earth was vast, and caves were rare. What happened to the people who couldn't find one? What did they do when the rain started and there was no rock face for 50 kilometers in any direction? They built. The oldest known human-made shelter dates back around 400,000 years. A simple structure found near a beach in what is now France. Wooden posts, animal skins stretched over the top, weighted down at the edges. Primitive by our standards, revolutionary by any standard that matters. Ancient humans looked at a problem, rain coming from above, and solved it with the same logic we still use today. Put something above your head that water cannot pass through. Animal hides were waterproof. Fitted together correctly, layered over a wooden frame, they could keep a small group of people dry through days of rain. These shelters weren't permanent. They couldn't be. Hunter-gatherers moved constantly, following food. But they could be built in hours, packed up and carried, and rebuilt wherever the group stopped. Portable shelter, 30,000 years ago. But staying dry was only half the battle. The other half was fire. Fire was not a luxury for ancient humans. It was the difference between surviving the night and not surviving the night. And the cruelest thing rain does to a person trying to survive is not the cold or the flooding. It puts out the fire. Wet wood will not burn. Wet tinder will not catch. And once a fire goes out in a downpour, getting it started again with primitive tools, striking flint against iron pyrite, or spinning a wooden drill in damp wood, could take hours of exhausting, frustrating effort. Sometimes it was impossible. So ancient humans developed something we almost never think about: fire management. They didn't just make fires, they protected them. Archaeological evidence from multiple sites shows ancient humans digging small pits or surrounding fire with rocks to shield it from wind and rain. They kept dry wood stored inside shelters, collected during dry periods and carefully protected from the weather. They maintained fires continuously, feeding them constantly so they would never go out and never need to be restarted. Some anthropologists believe that certain group members were specifically responsible for nothing else but keeping the fire alive. That was their job. During long rainy seasons, one person, or a rotating team of people, would sit beside the fire hour after hour, feeding it, protecting it, refusing to let it die. The firekeeper. Think about what that meant. One person's entire contribution to the group's survival was maintaining a single flame through weeks of rain, and without them, everyone else might not survive the night. Now here is where the story gets surprisingly human. What did ancient people actually do during those long rainy days when they couldn't hunt, couldn't move, couldn't do most of the things survival normally required? They talked. They told stories. Rain is one of the oldest known triggers for storytelling in human history. When you are trapped in a cave or a hide shelter with 10 other people and you cannot go anywhere for days, language becomes everything. And the stories that got told during those long, dark, rainy nights were not casual conversation. They were survival manuals. 2 seasons ago, when the rains came early, the elder found higher ground to the east, where the soil stayed dry. That story, told around a fire during a rainy night, could save everyone's life the next time the rains came early. This is how knowledge survived before writing existed. Not stored in books, stored in stories, passed from person to person, around fires, during exactly these moments, trapped inside by rain with nothing to do but talk and listen and remember. The cave paintings at Lascaux and Altamira were not just art. Many anthropologists believe they were memory tools, visual records of migrations, animals, weather patterns, survival strategies, made during exactly these kinds of enforced rest periods that long rains created. Boredom, in the most literal sense, may have invented human civilization. But what happened when the rain didn't stop for months? Around 8,200 years ago, something catastrophic happened. A massive glacier in North America collapsed. The meltwater, an unimaginable volume of fresh water, poured into the North Atlantic Ocean. The ocean circulation system that controls climate across the entire planet was disrupted. Temperatures dropped. Rainfall patterns shifted violently. For roughly 150 to 400 years, certain parts of the world experienced rainfall so extreme, so relentless, and so prolonged that it was unlike anything humans had faced before. Floods swallowed entire valleys. Rivers burst through barriers that had held for millennia. Coastal settlements were consumed by rising water so fast that the people barely escaped. Some of them didn't escape. And yet, humans survived. Not just survived, adapted. They moved. When the lowlands flooded, groups migrated to higher ground. They shifted what they ate. When hunting became impossible in flooded terrain, they fished and gathered shellfish and found food in places they had never looked before. They built better shelters. They got smarter about where to camp, always now looking for elevated land with natural drainage. And they told stories. Every culture on Earth has a flood story. Greek mythology, Hindu tradition, Mesopotamian legend, the story of Noah. Indigenous traditions from every continent tell of a great water that came and covered the world and from which a few survivors escaped. For centuries, these were treated as myths, as symbolic stories with moral lessons. But scientists now believe these stories may be something else entirely. They may be memories. The oldest known verbal histories in the world, passed down through indigenous Australian communities, accurately describe events that happened over 7,000 years ago, including specific coastline changes from rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age. These were not myths, they were records, preserved in story form for hundreds of generations, which means somewhere in your genetic memory, in the stories humans have been telling each other around fires for thousands of years, there is a voice, an ancestor's voice, saying something like, "When the water comes, move to higher ground, keep the fire burning, stay together, tell the children what happened so they remember." The rain always stopped eventually, but the knowledge that survived it never went away. Every shelter design we still use carries the logic of those early hide-covered frames. Every fireplace and hearth carries the memory of those firekeepers who sat through the storm so everyone else could sleep warm. Every story ever told around any fire anywhere in the world carries the echo of those long rainy nights when words were the only thing keeping people sane, connected, and alive. We built civilization not when the weather was perfect. We built it in the rain, and we remembered how.